When it comes to House of the Dragon, we used to have this.
My wife and son are dead! I will not sit here and suffer crows that come to feast on their corpses!
And now we have this. Welcome back, everyone. We are here today to talk about House of the Dragon, Episode 4, Tumbleton. And as I figured based on the end of the last episode, we are going to Tumbleton and seeing what's going on there. And we're being introduced to some pretty interesting characters. And I cannot wait to discuss sort of what goes on in this episode, because there is some stuff that I really liked. And then there is some stuff that, well, we'll talk about it. But before we get into that, I want to know from you, what is your favorite redemption arc? And it can be from anything. So it can be from something that's Game of Thrones, something that's not Game of Thrones. But in the Game of Thrones universe that we've had, even just with HBO, I feel like there have been a lot of really good ones. Or even if you're a fan of the books, there's a lot of good redemption arcs to choose from. So let me know one of your favorites down in the comments below. I think something that I've been reflecting on with this season and where we're at, and even with this last episode, is how much I miss season 1 of this show. I've been going back and watching a lot of season 1 stuff recently, and whenever I go back and look at it, I'm like, how is it the same show even? I feel like so much has changed in terms of the storytelling and some of the writing. And I mean, it's weird because cinematically, I think the show is still absolutely stunning. I mean, the fact that we're using real fire on these sets to create that lighting, that the way that flame dances across the skin, the fact that so many of the sets, even just in King's Landing and the Red Keep, are connected together so that when actors are walking through, they can walk through from set to set without having an interruption, without having to break character. And I do think the acting still holds up quite well in this. So there's so many things that are still going right, and yet there are many things in this episode that I felt I just didn't understand. I felt like we're going so wrong. And I might be on my own here. I don't know if I'm losing my mind or what it is. But I have to say, in this last episode, there are so many things that feel so two-dimensional, so shallow. I want to start with one of the biggest ones for me, and that is Ormund Hightower, aka, I guess, Timu Ramsay Bolton. It feels like the producers for the show were saying, you know what we need? We need someone in here, a real villain. You know, in Game of Thrones, they had a guy, what was his name? He was the son of someone, but he wasn't legitimate. What was his name? Sir, I think you might be thinking of Ramsay Bolton. Oh, yeah, that's it. Ramsay Bolton. That's him. Ramsay Bolton, yeah. We need a Ramsay Bolton in this show. Can we get one of those guys? Can you put him in here for me? Well, I mean, Ramsay Bolton, I mean, his character doesn't exist until... Well, that's fine. You can just choose any of these guys. I mean, who do we have here that people don't like? What about the Greens? People hate the Greens. They love to hate the Greens. So how about, who's this guy? What about that guy? Ormund Hightower? Yeah, Ormund Hightower. What's he like? Is he potentially a villain? Well, in the book, he has his own sort of story, his own... Okay, well, never mind the book. Let's just make him a villain. Give him hair like Ramsay, and make sure you show his butt early on, and that's how we'll know he's a villain. Honestly, that feels like the story of how we got Ormund Hightower here. He really is just a lesser version of Ramsay Bolton. And you know why? Because we don't really know why he is the way that he is. Why did they even give him, what's this smell thing that he has? That also feels like a producer being like, you know what? Give him a smell thing too, just for good measure. We gotta make him weird, otherwise he's not evil enough. And it's funny because earlier on in the episode, I really thought we were doing something interesting with this character. I thought, okay, you've got this guy and he's claimed all of Tumbleton, and clearly he's an enemy of the Blacks. He's with the Greens. He's a Hightower. But when there is a concern brought to his attention, one of his soldiers not acting honorably, his response is to punish that soldier. And he apologizes to the people who are tormented by him. He takes responsibility for it. And I thought, okay, so maybe this guy's kind of a jerk, but maybe there's more to him. Maybe he also really believes in justice. And then the end of the episode happened, and I went, Oh, well, that's disappointing. I guess not. This is a man who feels that the Hightowers are the best people, that, the people of Westeros are the best people, hates Targaryens, somehow also seems to hate women as well, even though, his sister was the one holding down the fort for a long time there over in King's Landing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing, but I guess I'm gonna find out more as it goes on. And I mean, where even is Kristen Cole? We barely get any Kristen Cole in this episode. We've barely gotten any Kristen Cole this season. He was my favorite guy to hate. Bring him back. He has some legitimate reasons to be the way that he is, and I love to hate him for it. Ormund, on the other hand, what happened in his life that made him this way? I don't know, and I don't know if the show does either. And speaking of Hightowers, let's talk about another one that I want to discuss, and that is Alicent. And I kind of feel bad because Alicent used to be one of my favorite characters in this show. I thought, Alicent went through so much, and even though I didn't love her behavior, I didn't love that she was a person who was so overly committed to her family, that she was willing to take an eye for an eye from a kid, and go through that. Even though she's done some despicable things, I feel like Alicent is a person who was stripped of her agency, put in a position that she did not ask to be put in, where she's now the queen. She never wanted that. And so the only way for her to hold on to her agency is to become a master manipulator, like her dad. It's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy that she can't escape, and she becomes so dedicated to her family to a fault. And where is any of that now? Apparently gone. Does she care about Aegon? No. Does she care about Aemond? I mean, he was creepy with her, so I guess no. Does she care about Daeron? Clearly no. All we have left is Alicent and Helaena. And of course, we've just found out, seemingly, that Helaena is pregnant. So hopefully this means we're going to see Alicent doing something, anything, please. Because right now it feels like she is purely a pawn, and I just miss the days when she actually did things. Sure, I don't agree with it, but there's a reason Alicent is the way she is. And now I feel like we've forgotten all of those elements of that character. It's so weird. However, there is some really good character development that was happening in this episode that I actually really enjoyed, and that is Aegon. I'm actually weirdly enjoying the Aegon stuff. And we also have this really beautiful moment with Aegon when he's with Sunfire, and he's just wanting Sunfire to get up, and he's saying, Sunfire is still there, he's still alive, trust me. And what that reminded me of is the fact that in many ways, I feel like Aegon is still that little boy, He's a brat and he's terrible, but it's because he never really grew up. He kind of stayed stuck in that mental state of being a child and expecting everything to be done for him. He was coddled too much. And I know Alicent knows that she messed up with Aegon, but Aegon could have been a good ruler if he was just maybe challenged a little bit more as a child, if he was brought up in a different way. And what you see is you just are reminded of the child that exists still within him. I mean, he named his dragon Sunfire. Is that not the cutest name for a dragon? And now we're seeing Aegon struggling out in the world, realizing what the real world is like for some people, and being put in a place where he has to kiss a man's stinky feet. Ugh. I like that we're giving some humanity to Aegon. Thank you. A little bit of humanity for our characters. I don't ask for much. But I love it when I see it. Another character I'm very curious about is Daeron in this episode. We get a little bit more with Daeron and with him with his uncle. And now we are going to be seeing what Daeron, who I believe is known as Daeron the Daring in the histories, what he will be up to and what he will be doing. And he seems like he is young and he is in this very difficult place. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place where I think he does care about his uncle and looks up to him, but he also sees the flaws, and he also is Viserys' son. And I know that it's once again just another point for the Blacks, but I love the idea of what this character can represent, I think. And I'm curious to see where they're going to take Daeron next. Hopefully somewhere interesting. I don't know. He might be dead next episode for all I know. I guess we'll see what happens. We do also have some interesting things developing as well on the Black side with Daemon. Daemon is doing his best out here. He's hunting down Sheep Stealer. He finds Rhaena's riding Sheep Stealer. As I guessed, Rhaena is basically now a stand-in, I guess, for Nettles. And I think this is going to end in an even more tragic and terrible way for everyone involved. Obviously, Daemon's trying to do everything he can to try to make this right. He wants Rhaena to go on the boat. And he says, you know, if you do that, we can just pretend this never happened. I don't have to talk about who I found or anything like that. And we can still maintain everybody in good standing here. We don't have to let it tear us apart even more. And Rhaena's like, no, I want a dragon. And then Daemon's like, okay, well, maybe we could, you know, maybe we could just both go back to King's Landing and we can explain to Rhaenyra together what happened because you didn't mean to get in the way. Also, the fact that we're taking all this agency away from Jace, who is the one that decided to fly out there. He is the one that said to Bela, let's go, you and me. Let's go flying. And we also took him out there just for him to showboat in this show. That's the reasoning. He just wanted to do something in the war. And then he died. Should we blame Rhaena for that? I don't think that it's fair to blame Rhaena for that. And case in point, when Rhaena cannot be swayed and she flies off because apparently dragons are more important to her than her own family, who she claims was never there for her, which I'm pretty sure we established early on in the show was not necessarily a thing. Rhaena had a loving sister, a mother, a father. They all cared about each other as a family. Like, Daemon's with Rhaenyra now, but when he was with his wife before, his second wife, he was happy. He lived a happy life. He loves his daughters. So for Rhaena to claim all of these things in her speech, it just... where is this coming from, this no one loved me speech? I mean, maybe Aegon was mean to her at some point. I believe that, but Aegon's mean to everyone. So I don't think you can take what he says to heart because he's just a jerk most of the time. So that whole idea of Rhaena not caring, saying that her dad never cared about her and not really seemingly caring for her own family and feeling so guilty that she can't face Rhaenyra and yet she's claiming no one cares about her. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And then Daemon goes back and he presents a head, which is, you know, that of a man who was just keeping sheep out in the Vale. That guy, you know, his head is all messed up. So we don't even have to worry about who that is. Rhaenyra is not pleased by this. And she seems to be upset that she wasn't able to question this person. And she honestly seems to be getting pretty paranoid. She's like, who was Sheep Stealer working for? Aemond or... you know, Ormund or someone must have been working for someone. And Daemon's like, nah, it's just a wild dragon. They're really hard to tame. The fact that it had a rider at all is crazy. I took care of it. It's done. And of course, we know it's not done, but Rhaenyra doesn't know that. So for her not to be satisfied by this is kind of weird. And I understand that while she has received quote unquote justice, this might not appease her because while she now has the person who she blames for what happened to her son is still gone. And I mean, even Daemon brings this up to her. Like, what did you expect? Did you think that your grief would just be wiped out? Like, no. So I understand that you're not completely satisfied, but I did what you asked me to do. And it's weird because even when we have the council meeting, we have Mysaria against Daemon again, with Mysaria arguing for the small folk, use the gold that Daemon brought from the Vale for the small folk, whereas Daemon's arguing to pay the soldiers. And I'm also feeling that, like, Daemon's kind of in the right here. Like, the small folk are important, but we just did something for them. So maybe we need to try to balance the scales because the soldiers are keeping the peace, in theory, other than when Rhaenyra blindly tells them to round up people that are writing messages on the wall, which, yeah, when you don't provide direction, that's not going to go well, Rhaenyra. What are you doing, girl? But we do need to pay these people. We do need to pay our soldiers. So I feel like it's a weird point in the show because I keep feeling like Daemon is making some good points. And I feel like when I'm agreeing with Daemon, I'm questioning where this show is at. Honestly, I remember when season 1 was going on and this show really did feel like Game of Thrones to me. It felt like there are so many characters who have so many different motivations, so many reasons for the way they are. And there's just a lot of people here that, you know, yeah, it's a lot of people doing terrible things to each other, but there are specific reasons why people do what they do, why they act how they act. And as you get to know the characters more, your sides would change. You might start being on the side of the blacks and then you know, the greens would win you over, and you'd be questioning, who are the good characters in this? Who are the bad characters? What side are we on? It was like a shifting of tides with each episode. And now it feels so black or white, and it's so disappointing to me. And I just wish we had more depth, because I think it's still a really cool story. And I think these two sides, we have a lot of great characters in this show. And yet it feels like we are not doing much with them, unfortunately. So yeah, this episode, there were things I liked about it. There were things I didn't like. It was overall kind of another mixed bag for me. But hopefully next episode I will like more. Tumbleton had some things that were interesting, but yeah, I'm just hoping we get a little bit more depth in terms of these characters and get to understand why they behave the way they do. Because that's what makes Game of Thrones really interesting to me. It's not the shocking twists, it's not people being awful, it's the humanity of the story. So I really hope we can connect back with that as time goes on. That's all I have for this one. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch my review. Let me know your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below. I'll see you down there. And until next time, friends, you stay nerdy. Bye. And if you love when I review TV shows, you need to check out more of that by clicking right over here.